All right, welcome back, everybody. I hope you're all awesome. I've got a Boss RV-6 on the bench today. Big shout out to my buddy Martin for letting me borrow this one. This one has flown under my radar big time. When I think of Boss reverbs, I basically just think of the new RV-500, which I did a demo with a few years ago. But this, with a few of their other pedals, like the FL3, the Harmonist, the Mega Distortion, they kind of fly under the radar because they're great utility tools that aren't necessarily trying to recreate some 80s or 90s magic from any vintage Boss pedals. They're just trying to give you good, solid sounds. And these are priced really, really well. I looked it up in Australia. You can score them for less than 250 Australian dollars new, which is a lot cheaper than kind of many other multi-mode reverb pedals by so-called boutique manufacturers. And it's kind of what Boss does. It makes this stuff accessible. So stereo inputs and outputs, there's an expression jack on there and a bunch of different reverb modes. We're going to start out having a listen to the plate. I've got a Warmoth Telecaster style guitar with some Jason Lollar vintage tele pickups in here. I'm going to let you hear the bridge and then the neck pickup on here with the reverb out of the chain. Then we'll start with the good old trusty plate. Doing what a good plate reverb should do. It's just adding a little bit of ambience and sweetness in there. I did find turning the tone control up above noon started to sound a little bit metallic, so I normally like my reverbs a bit darker anyway, so I'm probably going to live with that tone control down below noon for a lot of this. You'll notice there with the effect level all the way up the way I'm running it, which is going into input A, gives you basically a 50-50 blend. If you want to get 100% wet on this, you can just plug into input B instead. So that's a nice handy thing if you want to use it with like a line mixer or a parallel setup where you don't need your dry signal in the reverb. This guitar has one of those Fender 4-way switches, so I've got the neck and bridge in series. Let's hear this with some dirt. It's not the best plate style reverb that I've ever heard in a pedal. It's also certainly not the worst. Having the tone control on there is a nice feature on there, again, because you can make it nice and dark. I did find on there with distortion, I didn't love it quite as much. There's a little bit of a kind of metallic hue all over it, but on clean sounds and kind of those lower drive sounds, perfectly serviceable. Let's go clockwise now. There is a spring on here. Let's have a listen to see if this gets drippy. again, that's not the greatest spring-style reverb that I've heard, but it's not bad either. And the way this pedal is designed to me is it's kind of designed around the idea if you're somebody who has an amp that you like the sound of, but your amp doesn't have reverb, and you want to add reverb to it really easily, you go and get a Boss reverb pedal, you stick it in the loop, you put it on a mode that you like, and it's just kind of set and forget, and that sounds like it would do it for cleaner sounds. The modulated reverb I'm very interested in. I want to see if I can kind of get really, really long reverbs out of this. I'll play with the tone control, and I'm actually just going to turn the mix all the way up on this one and do some ambient noodling, so let's do that. That modulated reverb is star of the show so far. I really, really enjoyed playing with that. And again, that tone control can let you find that sweet spot in the reverb. You can kind of hear that it sounds like it's kind of going between like a low pass filter and a high pass filter in there. So don't go too extreme on it, and you can get a slightly brighter shimmery reverb, although not a shimmer reverb. There is a shimmer mode we'll get to, or something a little bit darker and more pad-like. So that's awesome. Let's hear a big dirty haul now. I'm going to go back to some distortion. The whole also sounds pretty sweet. Let's hear some shorter reverbs with the room style verb now. You can almost get kind of slapback style echoes out of this. Having the time control all the way down there gives you a really nice, almost doubling effect on dirty rhythms there. Let's move along to some of the special effect verbs. We've got a dynamic type. So what I'm going to do is crank up the level and the time on here. While I'm playing, you'll hear way less reverb. It's just basically a ducked reverb. Now that is mighty impressive. It's actually not just a kind of simple ducked reverb on there. You could hear when I was playing really softly, the reverb mix was higher than when I was playing higher. So it's like an envelope controlled reverb. That's kind of special. I really, really like that. This pedal with the modulated modes and that dynamic mode has something pretty unique going on there. I'm impressed. Let's hear the shimmer. This is one of those effects that is so overdone in the post-Strymon age, but we got to hear it anyway. Now, I've played some Shimmer reverbs that don't have a tone control on them, and they get really annoying to listen to with that octave up style effect. So bringing the tone control there, again, kind of shows its utility, and it's nice having a dedicated knob for that particular function on there. Kind of like the plate. It's not the worst Shimmer I've ever heard. It's definitely not the best Shimmer that I've ever heard on there, but if you need something like that in a pinch, it can definitely do it. So far though, the modulated reverb and the dynamic mode are my favorites. One more to go, reverb and delay. So we'll grease this up. Then I'm actually going to grab a different guitar and let you hear some drop tunings with this, just because this guitar is so bright and in your face, as you've no doubt heard throughout the video. If you made it this far, one, thank you so much, but two, we'll hear some chunky stuff in a second. Pretty much this control over here is going to control the delay time, so I'll play with that a little bit. That's pretty good. I like that. It's nice and big and greasy. And if you're looking for an epic solo tone that gives you reverb and delay in one pedal, a nice bonus feature. So reverb and delay, I'm going to give a thumbs up. The modulated reverb and the dynamic mode, I'm going to give a big thumbs up. Everything else on there is pretty serviceable. I think maybe my least favorite was the way the plate sounded on dirty guitars, but there's multiple modes on here. That's the whole point with a pedal like this. You can't really expect one thing to do it all, and especially at the price point. So it's pretty decent. I think if you are a reverb aficionado, you're probably going to look elsewhere. But if you just need something to add reverb to your setup, the RV-6 is really solid. There's some nice extra features in there. I'm just going to play you all out with that room sound with this drop C guitar, so you can kind of hear that thickening effect. Then I'm going to go back to the modulated reverb clean and just play you all out with some kind of infinite reverb noodles. If you like what I'm doing here on the channel, you can support me in a variety of different ways. Just check the video description. And I want to know your thoughts on the Boss RV-6. Is this something that surprised you? Is it something that you've used and moved on from? Or is it something that's been a staple on your board? Let me know in the comment section below. I'll give you a few more clips to play you all out. Have a great day.